And we're live again. Hey guys.
Alright, apologies for the slight technical difficulties, but we're still cruising along. Alright, I want to make sure we have some time for some live reads, so let's move on to one more review sample. Let's do the Nyy'xai, who's playing the young Catwoman, and we'll go over her real quick, and then we'll move on to live reads.
And is there a way that we could compare her to Michelle Pfeiffer? Because I see a lot of similarities between her and Michelle Pfeiffer, but yet she's a Nyy'zai and she's a Nyy'xai.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll let someone take the lead on that. Let's see. I think
How
got that one right.
Oh, okay.
Cool. You want to take the lead on that then?
Cool.
Retime me.
Yeah. I'll pop in a video. Let's see. You get a link to it.
And Xai'nyy, go ahead also add your input whenever you see anything you like as well. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, there's the link.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I noticed right away there's an awful lot of bobbling.
Yeah. Gumby Claw.
I think one of the things I noticed right away also just in the distinction of Xai versus she is she's going, Xai versus Xai, is she's going to the right and sort of doing a head tilt to the right, and when she does, she sort of smirks, and it's going into, the emotiveness is going into her cheeks.
Yeah, it scratches her face, her cheeks just a bit, like one of the riffs that does that real obviously to me, and she's drifting. It looks like she's drifting there, but it's not. It's underwater. It's really like an underwater thing.
Yeah, it looks like she has almost a 1,000-yard stare, but it's the Kane underwater.
That's true.
But
I'm curious to know.
Underwater sort of thing. She's not comfortable detaching entirely.
I'm curious to know what was the guesses that we made on her besides Nyy'xai and I think.
I was thinking, yeah, Nyy'xai and Nyy'zai, and were there any other guesses?
Nyy'xai, I think someone said Nyy'xai.
You said Nyy'xai, and Demon said Nyy'xai.
I read her as Nyi Alpha like really clearly. And one thing I noticed too are the Vi for some reason the Vi eyes I noticed with her. And of course along with the bobbling too.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that I'm noticing is like because I actually read her as a Nyy'zai before, but I was also noticing in one of the interviews that she was really like shy in a way, very shy and very like cagey-hearted, and I was not really picking up on that. But that was actually something that should have let me know that she was actually a Nyy'zai. But it was interesting. I thought that I kind of like associated that with just being like a kid in general. But that's actually cute that I was seeing that was actually Nyy'zai.
Yeah, very much Nyy'zai to me much more forward, much more able to be out than Nyy'zai.
Yeah, it's like macking. They're using their that with half sheet, they're more macking and more emotively warm a lot of times than Nyy'xai that's shy would be. Yeah.
But
with the G allows them to be much more out there.
I can't quite hear what's being said.
Okay.
that motion I want to recognize.
Yeah.
But Coach, didn't you once mention something about nervous bird Nyy'zai? Now I'm a little bit wondering about the nervous bird Nyy'zai and why she doesn't kind of. I mean, obviously you can choose it for Xai, but.
Right. So, a couple things on that. We're on, I believe, 51 seconds. She's got a Xai resonating right there. She's on her right. It's going up into the cheeks, even if she's actually trying to control it some. It's making a sideways motion to the right. There's more energy on that side of her mouth. And it's doing that lower lip more energy than the top lip that the Xai does. Also here, it's a classic like Nyi over Xai like expectancy. And it's like an emotional expectancy. It's not more like the games personship that you see with the Nyy'zai. It's more like, you know, it's like playing a game with emotion. It's more aware of it. This seems more innocent and awaited.
Yes, that's true.
For example, one thing is the Nyy'zai, when they are, even when they're more nervous bird, they don't tend to actually be drawing you in. That's one that's a big difference, is even with the increased G use, it still actually is more out. Here, it feels very much like, I'm sure it's the other G users here, her Xai is like almost like waiting for G to say something or do something. It's very emotionally expectant.
And also her voice. Actually. It comes out in the voice as well.
It does indeed.
And it's kind of like, it's very hard to explain, but it's sort of like you want to like do something or kind of like do, you know, I don't know, like that kind of
safe space for her.
Yes, exactly. Like create a space for something.
The hope is to create a safe space for her to express, because that even as a Nyy'xai, that's my impulse, to create a safe space for her to express.
Yeah, that's true. Very important.
Actually, safe space, but also, because there's different things G could do here. She to me seems like I want to use my G for that, but also her Xai would want your G to do something, otherwise the exchange would be a little boring. So yeah. I would say like some sort of, I don't think the massage is the right word, but some sort of emotional touch. I think she wants that, so there's the comfort, but I'm also sensing like some validation, like her Xai would like some validation that the exchange is going well, that something actually positive was occurring.
Yes, because Nyy'xai are not aware of that unless we get a response back from the environment. Unless something pings back, we ping, but we're waiting for the return ping, like echolocation. We're waiting for that to come back for us to know what's going on.
And I think to do that properly, you need to create a safe space, but also you need to satisfy this, what I'd say is emotional curiosity. Right here, this freeze frame, 51 seconds, she looks emotionally curious. I see curiosity in the eyes, and it's infused with that Xai.
100%.
Yeah.
I relate very well.
It's interesting, Coach, because sometimes Nyy'xai, we kind of work differently in a way, but sometimes I'll kind of like call out with my G, and then I'll kind of like expect an answer back as far as like how things should go. But for me, I suppose for Nyy'xai, it's more like you're supposed to read like the situation and kind of like what your spirits are kind of like telling you, and sort of like, and they don't tell you necessarily. They'll just kind of like, you'll either get the sort of thing that you wanted to get or you won't. That's kind of like.
Yeah, often for the Nyy'xai, you'll kind of feel an infusion or a depletion of energy based on if you're saying and doing things your spirits are grooving on. Yeah. But even still, you'll still want to have the Xai of, if not your other alone, at least also someone in the environment to see if it went well. So even though you articulate, you know, oh, I did say something that had a beginning, middle, and end. I delivered something. I do know that on my own. But I don't know if it went well until I see how that deliverable was received by the Xai resonating. Then I'll know how it went across. So packaging, the Xi does natively as an articulator, but how the package got weighed and assessed, you'll have to have Xai do that.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a piece of this too, Coach, where Xi will create something, create a tone, and then it's an assessment to whether that tone was received the way they intended it to be. And if it wasn't, then Xi then adjusts on that. But there seems to be an outputting of, I created this tone, was it received as I intended it to be received? And then it's on the Xi user to also say, it wasn't received how I intended it, let me readjust that, and that's what Xi does.
Yeah, that's kind of like with the Xai, I think, kind of like helping it, I think. But yeah, like, Coach, I would like to hear about that.
What's that?
Kind of like what Starglow was saying.
I think we're both looking for some feedback, Coach, on how that lines up with the truth.
Well, yeah, that pretty much was true. But as far as like more to it, basically, yeah, the G, as it's pushing, it has a surface it contacts, and that lets it know how the purchase is going, whether I make progress. That surface is Xai, so you can be talking, and the tone of your voice. Now you'll actually be watching the face as they do the tone, and you can almost see like, oh, if I go hear the tone, it's resonating because the Xai does it in real time. As you say word to word, and as you change the tone of each word, the Xai will be adjusting in real time because it's quick like that. So it tells the G where it's supposed to go, but also how to keep the note on point on each word in each sentence. Did that make sense?
That's so perfect. That's such a... I hadn't put that together with it. Thank you.
Totally. Excellent. Are we good with her? Are we ready to do some live reads?
I think so.
We're ready. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Oh, can you address just one more thing? Because I know that a lot of people were on the forum site and everything were saying how everybody was like comparing her to Michelle Pfeiffer, who's a Nyy'zai, you know. So what was like? I guess.
I think on that is two things. One, actually, three things. The role of Catwoman actually has a certain motif to it. And most people are not familiar with Eartha Kitt and earlier versions. Most people in modern pop culture, they're... What's that?
They were played by Nyy'zai. All the earlier Catwomen were played by Nyy'zai.
Good to know. But
Right.
they definitely, the role kind of does have that edge to it. And Michelle Pfeiffer is the one that most people are familiar with. So when they find a new person, I think the casting people probably cast her for looking similar to it. And people, you know, it's almost like a compliment to her because everyone thought that Michelle Pfeiffer did a great job of playing Catwoman. So you say, oh, she looks like Catwoman. It might be saying, like, tacitly, people do these rituals without knowing it. I approve of her as Catwoman. And that's how subtle a influence can come on you, where you're actually trying to compliment the person because you thought Michelle Pfeiffer was cool, and you're like, she seems like she's doing a good job as Catwoman for a young girl, and it almost seems like a compliment to make her Nyy'zai, but it's never a compliment to make something other than they are. But a lot of times that impulse is there.
And right, when you updated Michelle Pfeiffer to Nyy'zai, it meant that all the previous Catwomen were Nyy'zai, except this new Catwoman, this new girl. And it likely falls into that same thing of like we've talked about on several like Looper, and where they choose the where they choose the romantic as the younger version and the cerebral as the grizzled version or the older version or the more wise version. And so they chose someone, to my mind, that appeared enough like Michelle Pfeiffer, who's the generational one that everybody knows, and
had a kind of values-based more to it, right?
Your values-based, exactly.
It makes it easier to you know, sometimes to humanize them, indeed. And I think, as long as you're mentioning that, since they're going the whole theme of humanizing them, it's interesting that Jim Gordon, I think a lot of people would say from the comic books, seems more Nyy'zai, although he was played by Nyy'xai in the Christopher Nolan movies. I think they're to humanize him. And then in Gotham, the fact they're really trying to humanize the villains, they've made both Penguin and the Riddler Xai'nyy. And I'm pretty sure that they probably were not maybe cast. Well, you know what? Actually, they did cast Dan DeVito as a Xai'nyy as well.
Oh, right.
Intriguing.
That's interesting.
We better get going. We'll have a chance to do some reads. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's go for it.
No, but actually, and I think about it, I don't want to cut you guys off. Is there anything else you would like me to answer or talk about? I can do that real quick. I'd like to.
It's interesting. I was just thinking, Coach, why is it that Penguin has been casted as a Xai'nyy so like in 2 movies now? It seems really interesting. Like
this is probably just a very broad answer, but one that comes to mind right away is the premise, I think, of the Penguin in the mythology is that he is sort of 2 elements. One, he's bullied, and he eventually becomes fierce because he's bullied for his ways, which I guess are seen as more effeminate. And his mannerism as a villain for Batman is someone who's sort of seen as effeminate by the world, and he kind of lashes out by being dominant. And then
that's true.
Also I'm not sure the Riddler, but also for the Penguin, there's the element that he lives a bit of a pampered, self-centered, decadent lifestyle. And so I think those elements, he's a bit of a, how would you call it, a fop? A bit of a fop as a villain. And so I think his foppishness and the fact that he was bullied for his effeminate ways are probably elements that make you maybe want to cast a Xai'nyy in the role. I don't know if that's necessarily right or whatever, but that's a guess. As for why they cast the Riddler also as Xai'nyy, I'm not sure. I don't know the Riddler's story that well enough.
If you think about it, I mean, a penguin sort of is like a tower, though, right? The way that they walk and the way that they kind of move, or I don't know. It kind of makes sense because they seem very like towering as they, like a tower is moving across like the snow. I kind of like get this impression.
And on that, I'm actually, I think someone actually guessed Xai'nyy for the Riddler, although he's not a Xai'nyy. That would be an interesting casting. Because he does seem sort of towering, but, you know, Riddler, I don't know, it seems like something like, you know, like Nicodemus. We call that one thing that Xai'nyy to watch out for. Labyrinth.
Logical labyrinths, yeah.
Yeah, logical labyrinth. That seems like the Riddler.
Yeah, like
crazy logical labyrinths.
Yeah.
That was playing into my thought process when I guessed Xai'nyy.
Wait, and then didn't Jim Carrey play the Riddler?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I want to say something on that. Jim, the way that I kind of like read up on the Riddler a little bit, and he was kind of described as being very flamboyant. That's kind of like very Nyy'xai and G I kind of got from that. And Jim Carrey, I thought was like a really good like representation of that because he's an Nyy'xai, he has the Nyy'xai and the G, and he's very sort of like that. But I thought that in the Gotham series that they were trying to go for more of a muted version of him, because I believe like he became more flamboyant as he became the Riddler, but Ed Nygma, the actual sort of guy that, you know, as he was younger, he was actually more like Xai and Vi, kind of like just trying to get into that more flamboyant, but sort of like getting in there more slowly and more kind of like that. I was thinking Xai'nyy for a long time too, but then I kind of settled with Nyy'zai. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's fascinating. And I like that we're talking about this because it does help your headspace get more train time. Anything you do that you can do with your fun time where you're actually still getting ahead and getting trained, just like linguistics. If you learn language, best try to find hobbies that let you also work that language in fun ways besides just sort of like the rigorous classic studying of the nouns and verbs and whatnot.
Oh, I want to correct myself. There is one other Catwoman which was not a Nyy'xai.
Oh, right. Christopher Nolan's, right?
Yeah, Hathaway, yeah.
Yeah, actually.
That was really interesting too, because I read up on this too. Because you have Batman who's like a Nyy'zai, and then she's like a Nyy'xai, and I don't think in the films they became romantic or anything. I haven't watched them. I don't want to say.
It's a little bit, but I don't think the tension is really there. I think it would be way better if you have a Nyy'xai. That makes the tension there.
Yeah. It was more like they were trying to just like be Alpha kind of with each other, you know, like like two wolves.
So much more
that was interesting. That's his take on that.
And Nyy'zai, of course, that's inspirational.
Yeah, because Nyy'xai with Nyy'zai, it's gonna be more competitive. But the cat girl, Catwoman with Batman, it was always sort of like she liked playing with him. And if he didn't actually like try to chase her on her caper, she was like disappointed. She liked the attention. That was a big thing. She really liked it.
So much more Nyy'zai.
Definitely. All right, we better get going though. You guys ready for a sample?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we have here. Mitchell, do you want to pull up? Who we got here? Marie Louise Von Franz.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
That's what
Do you guys know
that's
that?
one of yours, isn't it?
A Jungian.
Yeah, young.
That one yours? Oh. That's a Mitchell request right there.
Yeah, she was one of Young's foremost disciples.
Oh, yes.
Interesting.
Von Franz, that's right.
Marie Louise Von Franz. Oh wait, here, I'll just look up.
I wonder, do we have what her self-professed type is?
I'm not 100% sure. Probably INTP, but I'm not 100% sure on that. That's what they say she is on Celebrity Types, but I don't know if they're actually right on that. Although she might have said so.
Interesting. Is that the link?
Hang on.
That was simple.
I want to get videos I had. Those were pretty good ones.
You would think that someone that's really like an opponent, like an advocate champion of the model would actually say what their type is.
Right, but
At least
Young's typology wasn't really the only
true.
thing he did. That wasn't something she was particularly focused on.
Oh, okay.
Who cares about Young? The people talk about like the 8 powers and that like literature and that really lengthy thing, and I'm like, I never even read that. Who cares?
Okay, well, we'll try this video. Let me know how it is. There's a lot more.
And I think Glenn needs the
Hey Mitchell, could you send me the link first?
Yeah, here's the link to Glenn. I just sent
Oh, thank you very much, Xai'nyy.
Look. Is this her?
That's her. There's better videos than this, I think, though. I mean, I know I posted some ones that were okay on the forum.
One for Erin, wardrobe memories.
What was that?
It's like she's gone through a whole Ayn Rand.
Like she bought the Ayn Rand starter kit.
Yeah.
Was that her right there?
That's her. Yeah.
At 33, right? Okay. Okay, I think I already have a pretty good feel on her now.
Sure, her head is on the left a lot.
Yes,
True.
I'm pretty sure.
That gaze looks pretty locked
Like
on.
face looks
Yeah,
piercing.
it does.
Actually, I'm kind of getting a bit of a... I don't want to be too bold here. Maybe I'll save that for later.
Her eyes have a weariness, like a kind of hooded, perhaps quality.
Yeah. Yeah. Watchful.
Brakes on a lot.
What's that? Starklow?
It seems like she's got the brakes on a lot, not to.
Yeah, seems like she's like
Not to push anybody in one direction or another.
yeah, she's cautious. looked like she looked to the left there with a quick check. I mean, to the right, sorry.
Keep zooming in on her face.
I know, it's such a weird angle.
I
I
know.
know, it's so. It's like a
But-
Alfred Hitchcock film.
Guys, finish watching
Like,
this video.
It's just like
I'm
a
gonna get some better
slow-
ones from the forum.
It's like it just keeps zooming in throughout the entire thing. It's like on a
Maybe like on her
ball.
eye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like upper nostril or something.
Her hand. That's good, actually.
Yeah, it's good.
We appreciate it.
Except for 1 second.
Cut to hand and fade.
Can't have too much of the hand. That's too provocative.
I can't hear what she's saying, so I don't know if these mountains are relevant.
They're probably not.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of tension in her hand.
Okay.
Oh boy.
It's like
I
one
need a timeout.
That seems like a very lot of tension in that clenched fist.
Yeah, I know. Well,
The clenched fist was scary. Like, what was she? Her face looks so like kind of tranquil, but then you see the fist. It kind of seems like she's not acting right. It's kind of out of character a little bit there.
I'm curious what video number 2 is going to be like.
it's gonna be with like rainbows and like confetti, and she's gonna be in pink and purple and pigtails.
It's going to be very warm and inviting.
Yeah.
I think the comedian.
If we ever make outtakes from these hangouts, this is the moment to use as an outtake or bloopers.
Only bloopers. Yeah.
What you were watching now?
We're going
Yeah, are we learning in something else?
Okay, so I want to like you guys watch the first interview here,
Oh my god.
and she kind of reminds me of Ayn Rand, and she kind of reminds me of Meryl Streep a little bit.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of, right?
Kind of, yeah.
And she's got that like kind of like librarian, kind of like that one Cuckoo's Nest lady. What's her name? Kind of vibe coming from her.
Yeah. I don't know the name, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, you know. What was her name? Damn it. She got into like this thing.
Here, you know what? Marie Louise
Man.
Does she have more usable video?
She has lots more usable video. I'm trying to find the good
You
videos.
guys, are you guys dialing in on something?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. But we're not. We don't watch one video, so I have to go on.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to get my other videos from the forum, but those threads just take so long to load.
Oh well.
I still
If
can't
you
find
do a
it.
search,
Here's-
she
It's okay. I found another one that I think that'll be okay to look at.
cool.
Try it. She has lots of footage. It's just all old, so it's a question of trying to find the most quality.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it was anything like this one, then I mean.
Well, there's her hands, at least.
Okay, yeah. One thing, like she seems to be jutted forward while talking.
Is there a link to the second interview?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There we go. It just loaded for me because it was buffering for a long time for me.
Wait, did someone give you the link?
Yeah. Let me grab the link for you.
Thanks, Young. Always appreciated there.
Let's help. Cool. There's the link.
All right. Let's go ahead and continue.
That seems like some boundary setting to me.
Yeah.
She's got like uber boundary setting.
Yeah, she definitely has the boundary setting on. It's like
Very leery-eyed, kind of.
The clenched fist again showed.
Really? Was it white knuckling this time?
yeah. Another thing is when she comes in to give her arguments, she does it in she seems to do it in a very percussive way.
I thought the same thing. Yeah. She kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like it's very explosive.
Explosive.
And she's always on the left.
Yeah,
she is.
always on the. It's interesting.
Clenched teeth.
Literally, it's like he could like
Oh,
just.
she's on the right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh. But now she's calmer, more and more still, right?
Yeah.
Like more still in her face.
She goes completely stock still when she moves to the right, though. Like no movement at all.
Yeah.
When she's on the right, she's kind of giving you Richard.
Oh, her hand.
I could not see the symbolic meaning.
Mitchell, I'm pretty sure you did a little bit of research on her. Does she, besides any of the other MBTI kind of stuff that she talks about, does she ever say anything like useful or like anything like any
I'm
nuggets
sorry.
that you got out of it?
I'm sorry. What were you saying about the MBTI?
MBTI is useful.
Well, any sort of like maybe nugget here or there. I mean like you can pull all kinds of stuff from different people. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to what they're saying, but.
No, but what did you? Oh, you mean useful as to what she might be? Okay.
No, I think he means nuggets in general, and I think that's an interesting line of inquiry, but it might take us off of closing in here.
She doesn't use the MBTI. I don't even think the MBTI was invented by Witcher. She's not.
Yeah.
She's not a typologist.
But she knows the function.
Important.
She's a Jungian, right?
Yeah.
Jungian.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're getting a little distracted here. It seems to me, I could be wrong. Your energy, it feels like you guys have already closed this in your mind, and now you're dialing it in, and even getting a bit distracted, which is fine. But I think going on now, I think you're going through the motions. Do you guys have it?
I think we do have it. I think we've had it for like 4 minutes now.
I think
I doubt we're gonna go off the we have.
Yeah, I think we're just getting the
Nyy'xai.
kicks now in a way.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks it's not Nyy'xai.
Yeah. Nyy'xai.
Anyway,
Okay, good.
Nice. I think we have time for one more.
We probably do. Yes.
Go team.
And I think we were having fun playing with that. Cause
Yeah.
I think we were kind of like having too much fun with her a little bit.
Yeah.
We gotta watch out for that next time, though.
yeah.
It was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
Yep.
Bro.
All right, who's the
Bernard Summer.
Bernard
Music
Sumner.
artist.
Okay. Do you want
Sumner, S-U-M-N-E-R, and he is
You
a
wanna
music
do
artist
it?
of the band Joy Division.
Oh.
Do you want Demas to take it this time? Coach?
What's that?
Do you want Demas to take it this time?
Sure. What do you think? You like that?
Sure.
No, that works.
Thanks, Charlie. Good discussion.
Interesting.
His name is Bernard.
Bernard Sumner.
Bernard Sumner. Interesting.
Is this a request also, Coach?
Yes, this is a request from Bruno, one of the many music artist requests.
He's requested like.
I know.
So
We definitely. I feel I should start getting at least some of those, so I try to work one in now. There you go.
Yeah, thank you, Bruno, for.
It will take us quite a while to
Yeah,
get these.
awesome music.
it's really flushing out our music.
Music artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to
We're
have
going to flesh out all available samples anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Do we have something for him?
What I haven't put up there, but I'd love to know.
Does Glenn have a link?
Okay, pasting
No,
the
I
link.
actually not yet. Oh, thank you very much.
Cool.
Yeah, there it goes.
Right when I was talking, it just popped up.
Is this the guy? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Okay.
His, I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but it seems to me that there's a lot of energy on in his eyes that I'm seeing right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a perception lead, I think.
Yeah.
I think most music artists tend to be.
Well, I guess not all. I mean, they're always the oddballs. So
Yeah, most of them tend to be, though, I think.
most, yeah.
And I noticed he started off the interview with an awful lot of drifting.
Drifting? You would.
You're already saying drifting?
Eileen, can you send a link? I'm not seeing the video at all.
It's up there on the chat. Do you see it? It's that.
Yeah, it's the last link that was posted in,
This one.
and now it's the latest one posted in.
Okay, thanks.
See it? Yeah, you're welcome.
Guys.
Let's give it about 1 or 2 minutes, I think.
Before we have more of a chat, let's have a look back at some of the all those pop shows and we played around.
Well, another thing that I think I'm seeing is that his emoting seems to go into his cheeks.
I think I've seen that too.
Did the video start over for you guys?
I think.
Yeah, it just started over.
Yeah. Okay, I'll fast forward it again. I think a little bit ahead.
You believe the emoting goes into the cheeks?
Yeah, into the cheeks, but not. I haven't seen it go into the.
Right.
Yeah. Don't know
So
why.
up about the brim line, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with Jailene. I'm seeing it above the midline, but I haven't seen it above the brim line.
Yeah.
What's that keep happening?
Yeah, it keeps looping to the beginning. Not quite sure why.
I'm not. Is somebody hitting
Yeah.
the back button or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's try another video. That's tedious.
Yeah, maybe get another. Let's get.
Wait, what's happening?
It
just keeps looping.
Looping to the very beginning.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So maybe
Might be a good one. Yeah.
We are.
this one out.
One thing I'm noticing is that he seems to do a lot of gesturing with his right hand.
A lot of what? The gesturing with his right hand. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, his
I don't
other
know,
hand
I
is
don't
on
know.
the couch, right?
The left one is on the couch, but the right one is like
Pointing a
pointing.
lot of things.
He's doing a lot of different things, yeah. And he kind of moves his head around a little bit too. I was thinking actually that he wasn't very animated at first, but I think as the interview goes on, I think he gets even more and more into it.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm putting a link for another interview that we're going to watch now since that other one is.
All right, cool, thanks. I think that would be better. This one is.
See if this one's better.
The The word you're looking for, Glenn, is janky. It's janky.
Janky asked.
Hopefully they come in closer.
Once they circle around completely.
Oh, this one looks like a pretty nice interview.
Yeah.
I like the setting.
Seems very calm, very at ease.
Yeah, it's cozy. What was that?
What's that?
The drifting is looking pretty comfortable.
What's that?
I said the drifting's looking pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I was
Not necessarily
yeah,
drifting, but disengaging.
I think he does have good eye contact. But it seems like he's kind of like channeling in a way.
It's strategic eye contact.
Yeah.
He's very. I like his energy actually. I think he's got a lot of facial movement and stuff, and I think he's. Yeah.
He has sort of a, like, I don't know, a boyish face, and I'm trying to take that in, like, even now he's a little older, but he has sort of a I don't know, like this little boy spark to him.
Yeah.
So,
I see that.
I'm noticing very much like he's very good at like the way he's conducting himself in the interview, like the way he. I feel like everything is just on point in a way. Every mannerism that he has is kind of like calculated in a way. Maybe that's not the right word, but
He has very good storytelling while
yes.
disengaging kind of ability. He's doing a lot of like doing 1,000-yard stares while he's still engaging with his hands. He keeps up the he keeps the rhythm going, you know.
yeah, I'm just like, because I kind of see like kind of glimpses or things that validate perhaps like Nyy'xai at times. Other times though, I'm trying to see like if it's perhaps not a Nyy'xai.
Yeah.
Trying to like not close my mind to like, well, and of course he can be something else. But,
Yeah.
Those are kind of two.
Yeah, I haven't closed out the possibility either.
Yeah,
I'm kind of just trying to just describe what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the word I think you guys would agree on. Maybe it's not necessarily because I don't think this word should be given necessarily to Xi, but he's very. What's the
conversational? Very.
No. I think it's like with a C and an H, but it's more like charismatic. But he's not being like overtly like very expressive. But he can play it down low. Like right now, it's kind of like more of the setting is kind of a little bit more like that. So he's taken that into consideration. He's conducting himself accordingly. But whether or not that's actually Xi or maybe it's like an approximation of Xi is up for discussion.
Right.
But I get that like very much so. Like he's very like good at that. I don't know if you guys see the same thing. I think you guys notice it too.
Yeah, I think he's going definitely it to the venue, like right now, of like the introspective storytelling mode.
Yeah. And look at the interviewer. The interviewer is like very like super focused and compelled by him, even though he's not necessarily like making a very noticeable kind of show. It's still very powerful in the fact that it's like kind of like capturing his attention very vividly, arresting it and riveting it in that kind of way.
It's an arresting monologue.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's a captivating monologue. He's very good at the articulation of the captivating monologue.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
For that reason, I think like Nyy'xai would be my first guess. I don't know about. I was thinking Nyy'xai, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I see Nyy'xai so much. Be interesting what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit more of a hunter vibe than a gatherer vibe at this point, but that could change.
Yeah. You just like want to keep watching more and more of him, huh? In a way.
Well, it's this very...
his hands. Like, he's showing his hands right now. And what do you guys see as far as, like, do you see, like, that wizard?
Yeah, I think it's very conceptually oriented in the way that it's kind of like trying to construct an idea. I think it's percussive. It moves very quickly sometimes, and that seems more like there's less what do you call that, viscosity?
The
more
most hands do seem to be conveying the story as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a purpose to them.
And overall, I feel like he has like a swagger about him.
But Nyy'xai is that purposeful.
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
Every mojo can pull it off in their own way, but I feel like.
Yeah, I'm trying to see
agree.
the gesturing and see if I see, you know, any traces of like wizard versus Gumby or like, you know.
I do see a lot of palm.
Yeah.
I'll say that. And a lot of like cool kind of moves where he'll touch his chin and then he'll kind of like go out and then he'll kind of do this thing with his eyebrows and then he'll kind of be like very smooth like that. So.
A little snarl.
I don't see that so much with Nyy'xai actually. I don't that particular kind of style.
That's like.
And I don't see him reaching for Vi. I don't see him reaching to the right when he's trying to grab details either.
And overall, I think he's very just aware.
Because like when I try to grab details or memories, I reach.
All right, it's 7:30. Do you guys want to?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident with Nyy'xai.
Yeah, I'm feeling Nyy'xai.
Yeah, the Nyy'xai was my first one that
But unfortunately, you guys would all be wrong. He's Nyy'xai.
Oh man, I knew it! That face!
Oh my
The word I would give him is bardic. He's a bardic Nyy'xai, and he's very good at telling stories. But if you listen to his voice again, he does not actually have easy articulation. He has a bit more of an ambly style. But you all found it very comforting, like you want to sit around a fire and listen to him talk. These guys are also very gifted conversationalists and storytellers, but they do it differently. His hands, that was Gumby. The hands were critical with him. Let's watch the video now. You know he's Nyy'xai.
I have to say, Nyy'xai males are just so hard, and Nyy'xai females.
But if you look at his picture, Glenn, like he has that face that's like that
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of Nyy'zai
And
males
that's
have.
part of the quality of the eyes as well.
Shy.
That rounded face.
Yeah, that rounded. Yeah, and the eyes are just not hunter, not pierced.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man.
Actually, I
One more
actually,
video,
I have to be more careful.
one more video, and I want you guys to pay attention to a few things. The gesturing, he does do this a lot. He keeps him close to his body, and as Denise has mentioned, adaptive, he pulls him back faster than he projects it out. He does this, it kind of pulls back like it's hot out there. Next, those digits, those are jiggly. Those are jiggly digits, not jazz hands. He actually has a good job continuing speaking, but he actually, that articulation is not momentum. Note that, and the heaviness of the jaw in the voice is actually the undercurrent, not the articulation. But he has a lot of poise. He has excellent poise and good articulation as well. But I think if you look for it now, you'll be able to see it. Let's watch a few minutes of that.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, the motions, the purposeful, because I know I can do that sort of thing when I'm trying to tell us a coherent story.
Yeah, I guess he's not moving, emoting so much when he's articulating, right?
And listen to the cadence of his voice. He's got the heavy tongue of adapted.
It's calming, it's like soothing.
Indeed, it is calming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did it go wrong?
Little quirky that's on one side of the face.
I think you guys just probably are not as experienced with the Nyy'xai male and Nyy'xai female, and particularly as they get older. The artifacts are hard to read anyway, but they get even more advanced games. And what will help a lot with it is if you get more familiar with directors. A lot of film directors have a bit of this game he has. He kind of reminds you a lot of like there's several film directors who kind of have this very. Again?
I kind of like had a Guillermo del Toro or something.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. Also, reminds you a little bit in some ways of what's the name? It's a European one. Europe. Anyway, but he reminds me of them.
He has the eyes the same.
Buggy, but your arms with the. I've seen several, especially Nyy'zai males, do that because they're attempting to take up space, but they just look like they're just lighting on the arms, like not actually. They're not actually rooted to the ground.
Interesting.
You guys want to see? Is there a third video that we could look at? I thought it's nice to see a fresh video. If there's one.
Yeah, this one's kind of got stale a little bit.
Agreed.
Yeah, we got.
We try to do so. It's good to try to switch over to get the interest alive again.
Yeah, we got some here.
The newness of it.
This interview with the Montreal
Whoa, that's scary. What was that?
I'm not sure. Here you see like more wobbling.
Yeah.
Always wobbling.
Gather her eyes, yeah.
Totally gather her eyes.
Yeah, bubbling. Oh, we should have seen this interview.
He's bubbling.
Maybe you just had more Vi in that last interview or something like that. More of
it was
a concerned
setting.
Vi.
Like Glenn was saying that he was noting that the setting was more introspective and storytelling, so
Good
he was
point.
adapting.
Yeah, and
to
he's
that setting.
quenching his
I caught in that.
together a lot, which is Vi. For any guy.
But here you see like the light, the lightness and the.
He's got the light and the spirit here.
This interview was the missing link. We totally missed it.
The missing link.
And he's bubbling, completely bubbling. He's not even staying still.
And look at that on the right eye and the downward turned corner.
And much more this with the hands. Because he's not telling the story, so they're just doing their own thing.
Something interesting about the way his voice sounds. Like, it's very, like, toned down in a way. I don't know, like, I feel like Nyy'zai males can sometimes have that, where their voice is very... I think that's a cool articulation.
They tend to use their Xai'nyy and vibe in a way that kind of holds them on point a bit more. Right. To be able to hold yourself, to control yourself. Control is a big deal for males, at least as far as cultural expectations.
Totally.
Right. I think that's when Nyy'zai males try to, like, put a lot of their points in their character sheet is, like, the control bit, because I think that's, like, most desirable as far as, like, the memes go.
Yeah, the memes don't like bobbly males.
Yes.
That sucks, but unfortunately it's true. We have to change that. Right.
We really do.
We got to change that. Bobbling is beautiful. I love regardless.
Bobbling is beautiful.
Because it was that bobbling he was doing in the last one too that was making his conversation so interesting and making us want to like pay attention and be involved in it for so long.
That was a very strong spell that he casted. He can do it.
Agreed.
It's modulation for him. Yeah.
Well, it's not all modulation because it's the news in the story.
Yeah, of course. Because the
and the calming quality that you're mentioning, that's a lot of his Xai'nyy doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
What I should say is not necessarily modulation, but he's got a lot of experience with that. He's done that many, many times, and as you do something one more, you kind of get better at it. Yeah, and he's much older too, and he's been doing it a very long time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of experience.
Yeah, something the Nyy'xai can do, both the guys and the girls, is they can talk a technical game, like using their modulation powers to technically get a point across, while keeping a lot of delight in their eyes and a lot of warmth in their voice that kind of conveys a different momentum message than just the words themselves.
Yeah. Like they're enthusiastic about their theory, their concept. Yeah.
Which is why I think you talk about something technical, but you go away with the impression of being delighted.
Yeah. Big time.
Because we infuse our Z conversation with the passion from the Nyi and the Xai, the delight and the passion from the Nyi and the Xai.
Yep.
If speaking correctly, that's the way it should be flowing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Excellent. It's about 7:40 now. That's a perfect time to call it, unless there's any final questions before we sign off. But that was a great session.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, because you were asking before, Glenn was. I looked it up, and I believe that Marie Louise Von Franz least believes that she's logic-based. So.
I think she probably thinks of herself as.
I believe.
I meant Ayn Rand.
INTP.
Totally. Ayn Rand hard.
Died out.
I forget who said it, but it was funny. Like, it looks like she ordered the Ayn Rand starter kit. Was that
Ayn Rand starter kit.
Total Ayn Rand riff.
Yeah, she was locked on. When she was talking, she was like, ba-ba, ba-ba. And if you said something back, she was like, what? That was sleek, elegant, science lady. Like, hey, Xai'nyy, she had a combination of, like, sleek, elegant science lady and Nick Diaz. My friend was a Jew. You see the interview when, like, Phil Donahue was saying, some people think it might be this or that. She's like, why? Blah, blah, blah. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I ever questioned you. She's very elegant, but very, very formidable. And I'd say intimidating.
Yeah.
You would definitely not want to roll up on that without your game together.
Commanding, I think, is.
Just remember that fist. Remember that fist.
She's a demand of mastery. You are not masterful if you do not bother talking to her, because she's going to put you on the side.
Sadly.
She's going to just pick you up and move you. That's it.
But whenever you're doing new things, even Jungian stuff in its way is new compared to a lot of other things, you have to come in with an attitude of, I'm extremely good at what I do and it's serious and important, and you just blow away one's attempt energetically or the way they carry themselves around you to take you not seriously. Because since you're doing something new and different, they're looking for a reason to dismiss you. So you give them no reason. Her eyes said, "You will not dismiss me."
Right, because
The thing is, she does a lot of dismissing, I think.
a completely new theory.
She does.
Yep.
She's got that kind of like cool brush off shoulder, kind of like
Yeah.
kind of thing going on a little bit.
She can definitely add some charisma, smooth to her game, but she definitely looks like she's highly intelligent and used to defending her points of view and explaining them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She looked confident and accustomed to exchanging her ideas this way.
She had them Xai'nyy on tight though.
Very much so.
Like Ayn Rand, when people question Ayn Rand, she starts off talking sciencey, and if she keeps talking sciencey, it gets like staccato, and she gets the crazy eyes. They just like, never mind.
I've seen those. They're like buggy.
But the cool thing is, when she gets like that, she starts asking questions like you to demand to explain which of her points you have a problem with and why, and give examples, and you're like, oh shit. So she's in ratchet it up, but it's usually in a very intellectually competent way. So, impressive. Okay, we'll get some Nyy'xai ladies out of the pod layer, and that way we'll be able to actually have them be like that, but also have the charisma and smoothness and know they're Nyy'xai and not be thinking they're a subserve all the time. Man, typology, they're like subserves are the ultimate
It's like,
mojo.
but it's very implicit. They don't ever say it, but it's just everyone at the top of the bubble is like a
Nyy'xai, Xai'nyy.
Yep.
If you give people like 16 different things that you can be, people are gonna choose the one that seems like the coolest. And if you read up on like the Nyy'zai or like INTJ, I mean, and even the INTP, they sound so much like there was so much more time given
It's true.
to writing those.
It's so obvious that someone put way more love into those descriptions than any of the others. Like the
Yeah.
ESTJ description, it's like, oh, just the administrator, whatever.
This is given preference as the default preference for what a human being should be like.
Well, I think the issue that is their problem all around, you guys confront them on all the time, is their use of conjecture. And that comes from being too wrapped up in their mind. And as a part of that, there's a bit, what I'd say, a cult of control. And being in control is like, that's the thing to be. And if you read the descriptions, the subserves seem like they're smart enough to know how natural law works, but they don't let it move them. And that's the ideal. Like, that's sort of portrayed as the way to be, which isn't even accurate for real-life Nyy'zai and Xai'nyy. That's not how it works. But anyway, it's kind of like a clinical society, and being clinical is like the thing to be. And clinical, it has a lot to do with control. Control. And subserves, if that's what you're about, they sound like the thing to be. Because you can talk about emotion in depth without being emotional, which apparently is the ideal. Because most of the ones that come over that were actually like Nyy'zai, and they think they're Xai'nyy, and we tell them they're Nyy'zai, they're like really insulted. So I don't know what messed them up, but yeah.
Insulting.
In fact, the one thing that seems to be the biggest problem they have is that Nyy'xai or other values mojos don't sound like they have control of themselves. They seem really, like most of Nyy'xai, for example, that decide up, they're really attached to this idea that they're in absolute control of themselves.
Right.
Yes. And it's not attractive.
No.
Maybe to some degree, but then
It's not attractive at all.
Self-possession is good, but like there has to be a balance in the sense that you leave room for the unexpected, the mystery, the sort of like life. Life needs to exist there, right?
But a healthy Nyy'xai is not going to be attracted to a Xai'da Nyy'xai. They're just.
I think for a tiny amount of time, maybe, but then at some point,
I think in some situations there may be certain rifts that can shine more, but whenever you get to the point that it crimps your peak pathway, it's just not going to be attractive to other people in general.
That's right.
Yeah,
So, for example,
that's
being a Nyy'xai that's got a smooth steeliness to them, sure, that's attractive, and certain circumstances even better. But anytime you have someone that's too Xai'da, whether you know it or not, abductive reasoning will kick in, and you'll know somewhere in your unconscious that they actually could have done a more genius, a more ferocious, a more charismatic response. And they could have. If they didn't have the side brakes on, that ship is designed to fly much more impressive maneuvers, and you'll feel a lack. It just is. When the Xai breaks through on, you can't do a lot of the cooler stuff. So to me, that's how much Xai you can have and still be good. Is does it accentuate your cool maneuvers? I mean, does having the Xai development just add to your cool maneuvers, or does it start actually shutting down your access to certain maneuvers, particularly Nyy'xai and G? If it shuts down access to those, it's going to make you just inferior. Like mathematically, there's no way around it. You're an engine designed to do Nyy'xai and G maneuvers, and anything. If Xai makes those bonus stacks, then great. If it actually says you can't pull them out and use them, then it makes you weak. That's when they always try to get to people who actually are logic-based, obsessed that way, is they generally have an obsession with control and power. And I'm like, you're not controlling a Lamborghini by driving around with a parking brake on. Does that, I mean, explain those terms, driving around any peak path with the brakes on is just not how you fly it.
And it's often not controlled. It's often like a manic. Yeah.
It's not control. Yeah. It's
actually Xai'nyy and I, we were talking about this today on skaters, is because they were talking about a lot of ones who were coming on. They were too tense, and that tenseness, like being tense to a degree, is good because if you're not, then you're lackadaisical, and you don't be lackadaisical when you're out there. You'll be sloppy. But a lot of them suffer from the opposite. They were too keyed up. They were so stiff and worried, like Xai does, of making a mistake that they didn't flow. Their lines weren't good. They didn't jump as high. They weren't just all around. They just did not perform at the same level. And it's because, this is what Xai does when it's overmodulating, fear of mistakes. Fear of mistakes makes you weak.
It throttles back the engines like you were saying with the Lamborghini. If you drive around with a Lamborghini and a parking brake on, it throttles back the engine. There's no power.
There's no
movement. Short,
and you need power.
Exactly. So basically, brakes are designed for one reason, which is to actually keep you from messing up or from running off the rails. But they should never be the main thing. You should be asking yourself, is the car actually moving forward where I need to go? If that's happening, then you want it to turn nice on corners and to stop when needed. But there's almost like an idolizing of being unmoved. And Nyy'xai are values-based and they're directives. So emotional movement would be that even if they were Nyy'xai, and the fact they're hunter means you're supposed to be going forward hunting, which gives you a bit of a hunger. And that's something else, I would say, about the control, is you're not supposed to be hungry. And people who are hungry for things, emotionally or psychologically, it's a sign of weakness. Again,
that's so stupid.
It is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Demas, you as a healthy Xai'nyy, what that looks like is that's unflappable, but it's not still. It's da-da-da-da-da.
Absolutely.
It's in motion. It is rolling with the game. It is the healthy way Xai is supposed to be. And
the knee gets delighted. The G gets passionate about it. Exactly. It flows exactly. Boss hero Demas.
Yeah.
And that's why the Nyy'xai won't look like that, because they'll neither be a hunter that's impressive, nor will they be a tower that's impressive. They'll be a hunter that's moving rather sluggishly.
Exactly.
True that.
Because even Xai Alpha, who are more on this than most people because of their fixation with perfection, their peak pathway even takes them beyond that. Because you have to act. If ever being perfect or the fear of making a mistake is to the point that you're like, I don't move, it's wrong. Even towers, even Xai Alpha, it's incorrect to have your setting to where I'm so afraid of losing harmony or perfection, I just don't move. So that's definitely wrong for a hunter.
Yeah, because we're directive. We're supposed to be moving just because. The Nyy'xai is percolating, but it's also it's percolating on things that are going to be done in the future, that are moves that are going to be made, plays that are going to be.
Yeah, this is across the board. I'd say for all the values-based mojos, the Nyy'xai and Xai'nyy as well, is that they tend to Z up a lot. And the same reason is that the world kind of trains you in a defensive mechanism of don't make mistakes, don't show weakness, and so that becomes a priority over peaking. You know what I mean? And peaking is always the top priority, and that makes an inappropriate protocol take precedence.
Yeah, I think there's like a fear of like showing vulnerability and showing like.
Yeah, well, because you get conditioned, you know, with certain experiences that if you do show your shy or vulnerability, then you get perceived as weak or, you know, perhaps bullied.
Or you get made a fool out of.
Yeah,
because you
people
give
see him as a
Yeah.
put in.
Right.
Exactly. But
That's
those are
what
exactly. Yeah, but I think you guys would agree that those are like the exact moments when a person shows that authenticity, shows that, like when you trip somebody up and they weren't expecting it, that's when you see who they really are, and that's kind of like really cool to see that instead of like this kind of like muse or not muse, I mean like a guise that they, like put on their face to like or like a mask that they're kind of using.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Agreed.
But the courage is not in the perfection. The courage is in the authenticity.
I believe what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah. I think you guys are agreeing on that sentiment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We totally agree.
Also in the vulnerability of taking the risk to move yourself forward rather than to constantly be on the brakes.
Yeah, being courageous, being heroic in that way. It's very important.
Definitely, I think all the Xai'ny's powers have to kind of deal with that. Even Demas has mentioned that when he's making his cases, and he's obviously very Xai heavy, Xai alpha, but he gets pushback on how much G he does. When we talk about this, actually, that brings it closer to perfection. It would be less close to perfection if he didn't go from Xai all the way down the peak pathway to G. He'd be doing it incorrectly.
Just according to like the peak pathway.
It's adapting those small changes of the Xai. That's what Demas does. That's what you do, right? Demas is you adapt those small changes to make it more perfect.
Yeah, but also on the note of pushing back is that sometimes you actually have to push back just to even remain unflappable, because there is going to be impingements. What's another word I want to use? Impingements, but inappropriate pressure onto you.
There's windage. There's a lot of windage on it.
Yeah.
To not do something or to have some other kind of position, something incorrect. And if you don't move or don't push back and actually enforce your right to say or do or take up space, then you're going to be in a less lucid, more feared up headspace. You actually have to push the environment to actually gain lucidity, to be like, no, I actually am supposed to be this confident.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I get the impression that you're standing on like perfection, and then people are kind of like pushing in the dynamics and stuff, like stuff that isn't perfect, and then you kind of have to make your move, otherwise it kind of gets on you. Right?
You do. If you push something hard enough, some of the demons I've talked about, you have to lean into the pressure. That's like if the tower's trying to hold perfection, the wind keeps pushing it like this. You have to lean in against that wind to resist it.
To compensate.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because it's like a tower, right? Leaning. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But that takes a force to lean into it to remain vertical.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like you have to. I totally get it. Yeah.
I think also it depends on what field you're in. I think values-based powers have issues in general, but particularly when you start getting into fields like, say, psychology, there is an attempt to take the human condition and make it, which it is in a way, mathematical, but to me it should be the mathematical and the humanistic way are synergistically together. A lot of times they like to almost remove themselves from the humanistic one to feel safer, to feel less out of control. As if you get down to the math of Xai'nyy, that somehow Xai'nyy stops working the way it does. Xai'nyy can go to ones and zeros. There are ones and zeros that make you cry and get angry and other things like that. So you knew the actual, like the code of it. The code of Xai'ny's powers is that they are emotive and they're supposed to be.
Right.
Cool. It's about almost 8 o'clock, so probably a good time to call it, but that was a wonderful discussion.
Yeah, Coach, you were like
impromptu.
I was noticing you stopped at 7:30. It's like, okay, 7:30 now. So I think it's like 7:40. It's 7:40.
You guys, it was a great conversation. So I'm glad you guys were mentioning that. And it is relevant to Mojo reading too, because a lot of times you may, I know I do it still myself, where I just don't think of certain people or certain roles because just cultural expectations. So it's good to actually kind of really talk about what are the cultural expectations, how do I feel about them, so you really know them, not like under the blankets anywhere. Because when under the blankets, unless you read something, you won't know it. It's better to actually pull them out, look at them, examine them, decide what you agree with and whatnot. Just be very aware about that process. Not aware like a G way, I'm just meaning in a spiritual way. You ruminate and weigh what those cultural expectations mean to you and how they affect you. Because if you don't, they will affect you without knowing it. Quasi-state style will be pushed on you. And you'll find out, as I'm sure you guys know, where you're like, afterwards, you're like, how did I get that wrong? Because looking back, it's so easy. You know what I mean? You're like, some things you're like that was technically challenged. Other ones you're like, I think I should have got that, but something pushed me. It's very important to know what are those things that inappropriately push me off the correct answer.
Yeah, totally. It gets on my nerves all the time.
I know, but it's good. It's good. It's good because it means like you know it's happening. You're like, I do not like being bullied by these invisible hands. I'm going to find these invisible hands and tell them to do it.
Yeah. Like they're like leading you astray. You're like, where are you going? Like, no, this is not the right way.
Exactly. You're supposed to be helping me, unconscious, but you're not. You're shoving me around. So let's fix this.
So much deprogramming we all have to do.
Indeed.
Yes,
Quasi-deathing.
Quasi-deathing.
But it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to do it. It feels, you know, sometimes a little rough because you have to change what you knew. But when you do, you talk all the time. It feels so much better in your head, your heart, everything. You're like, that makes much more sense. Just like George Martin. Like I was like, oh man, my favorite author ever is, you know, not a Nyy'xai, but it's the truth. And once I accepted that, it was just much more beautiful and correct, and my head felt better, and I didn't feel weird when I was looking, you know what I mean? Like I'd go past his sample, like, I don't know why I feel weird. He's a favorite author, but he makes me feel weird. That's because I was misreading him.
Yeah, it's sort of like a knot that you kind of like massage back into like a nice, long fiber of muscle or something, you know what I mean?
And it
Totally. I like that. It does. It makes your performance much better. You're smoother, you're stronger, you recover better. Your alignment on your techniques is just much more in sync. Just, yeah, absolutely.
When it's one key, if it's a key member like that, it changes the whole story. It changes the entire grid.
It does. And that's why it's such heavy work, because when you change one of these people, like I said, it changes the whole virtual village, which means it's a different story. It's huge, but that's the work, because that's actually you have to do it to figure it out. But it's a huge algorithm.
And it's kind of a bit like, I don't like you kind of like you don't know what it's going to turn into. Like this, there's like this mass of truth, and now this one piece is wrong, and you rearrange it. Like, what is the picture now? It seems like it doesn't make any sense, but that's actually more true, and you gotta like try and figure out.
You do whenever you shift it to the new picture, it's more up to date. You feel wobbly at first, but then it coalesces, and always if you are trying to study more, the pattern wants to show itself, and so it'll improve. The puzzle will make more sense. You're like, better now.
I like want that, yo.
What's that?
I really want that, yeah.
We all do. We all do.
And this is exactly the kind of work that we're going to be doing. So, very exciting. I'm working on the 13K now.
I couldn't.
13.
All right, well, everybody, I'm afraid I'm going to have to...
You're almost bar
totally.
mitzvah.
You're
almost bar mitzvah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for a wonderful session.
Awesome hangout.
Awesome session.
Totally.
Bye.